Hi, this is Sara from Omnia. We've been experimenting on replanting different kinds of herbs and edible plants for quite a while now. Our goal is to have an indoor herb garden that can provide us with all the fresh herbs we might ever need for our family. We've used both seeds and store-bought plants in our experiments. What we've learned is that although seeds work, we want to skip ahead some and use store-bought plants to start with instead. So we moved to buying herbs, which we then replant and get to thrive in a way that doesn't require a lot of maintenance. By using store-bought herbs, we get the best of both worlds. We get to enjoy the herbs that are in season right from the start, and we're also able to experiment more to find out what works best for each herb. I prefer buying fresh herbs that are on sale from a store or directly from a nursery that I can use straight away instead of going the seed way. But there is a major flaw with most of the herbs you buy, and that is that they are commercially grown. That means that they are grown as fast and as cheap as possible. So getting them to survive and thrive takes a bit of know-how. If you don't replant them, they usually wither away quickly. So in this video, I will show you how to replant store-bought dill, so that you also can enjoy dill for a lot longer than the usual lifetime of these store-bought plants. Dill is an annual herb and not the easiest herb to grow. It's because it has a long taproot that doesn't like to be disturbed. So you need to be a bit careful. If you have dill outside, it often gets attacked with pests. But as we have our herbs indoors, we can usually avoid that from happening. In Scandinavia, we often use dill in the summer when we boil new potatoes. We also love to have dill in all our fish and seafood dishes. It's also great when pickling cucumber. So, let's first go through what you need. Here's an organic dill plant that we're gonna replant. This one came in a small plastic pot. The size of the pot on the plant you buy doesn't matter, as you won't be using it anyway. But if you are able to buy plants with the size of the pot that you're using in your indoor herb garden, then I recommend you buy those, as you won't need to replant them. If so, all I recommend is that you place the pot in our homemade pot system. I highly recommend that you choose organic plants, as we've seen that organic ones survive the stress of replanting better. But if you can't, get a regular one and try it out anyway. We've successfully replanted non-organic ones as well. And also, if you're opted for organic soil, then of course you want an organic plant to keep it all organic. Also, if you store the plant in the fridge, let it rest at room temperature for a while before you replant it. I usually let them rest for an hour or so at a minimum. As I mentioned, we won't be using the pot it came in. We use our own homemade pot system for our indoor herb garden plants. A standard setup for each of our plants consists of a food-grade container and an inner pot with several holes in it. The inner pot is then suspended above the water level inside the container. This pot system is very good, and our plant seems to love it. It's so much better than just using soil. It's also very easy to make yourself. If you want to make one yourself, I've asked my husband Peter to show how to make one and also go through why it works. I'll add a link to that video in the description. And then of course, you need some plant soil. We use organic soil. But as it is quite a lot more expensive, you can go with non-organic. But I recommend you make sure that it's from natural sources and not mixed with, for instance, processed sewage. Also, I recommend you buy regular plant soil. With the pot system we're using, our herbs grow like crazy. So instead of wasting money on some kind of specialty soil, I recommend you instead invest that money in the organic plant soil. It works just fine. You also need some water. We use our special blend of water that we found works very well. You can watch our video about how we make it if you're interested. I'll add a link in the description for that as well. But you can also use regular tap water. I usually don't want to use the water straight from the tap. Instead, I let the water rest overnight or at least a few hours before using it. But if you are like me and enjoy drinking a lot of tea, I recommend that you also add leftover water from your kettle to the water you're using for your herbs and other plants. As with most dill plants you buy from a store, this one is very tall. They are grown very fast, so they might not be able to stand by themselves. So what you might also need is a suitable stick and some string to give it additional support. I've already made 2 strings with knots on the ends to choose from when I get to that part. I also use a waterproof tablecloth to protect my kitchen counter or table. As you're handling soil with lots of bacteria and other microorganisms, I recommend you buy a tablecloth that you use exclusively for your planting activities. I like to use a tablecloth with a wax or oily surface, as that's easy to keep clean. And also, as an added bonus, when it's time to replace it, you have a lot of different colors and patterns to choose from. That's all the things you need to be able to replant like a pro. Now that we've gone through the items you need to replant this store-bought dill, let's go through how to actually replant it. The first step is to remove the plant from the pot it came in. All you have to do is carefully press or massage the sides of the pot to loosen the plant from the sides of the pot. And then you remove it like this. Look at these packed roots. After you remove the pot from the plant, you need to make sure to loosen the hard packed soil so that when you water it later, the water can reach the roots of the entire plant. The way to loosen the soil is the same as you did while removing the pot it came in. All you do is carefully press or massage the sides of the plant while making sure you don't break its roots. This step is quite important, but you don't have to overdo it, just loosen it some. Some say that you should break up these store-bought plants in separate or pairs of 2 plants per pot. That's mainly because if you keep them in an ordinary pot with soil, they use up all the nutrients in the soil faster. We found that with the pot system we're using, we don't need to do that. The nutrients in the soil is of course used in our pot system as well. But when we add our water to it that also has nutrients in it, then the soil lasts a lot longer. Next, you place the inner pot on the table and put the plant in it to figure out how much soil you need to use at the bottom of the pot so that the plant and the upper rim of the inner pot are in level. So all you do now is add the soil that's required to level the plant with the inner pot. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you add too much soil, you can always make a suitable hole in the middle of the pot. Don't press or try to harden the soil just yet. Next step is to place the plant in the center of the pot. And add soil to the sides between the plant and the inner pot. Be sure to fill the entire side of the inner pot with soil. I recommend that you press or try to pack the soil some to be sure that it goes all the way to the bottom. And also that'll keep the plant straight and also grow in the center of the inner pot. I like to have my plants grow straight and to be in the center of the pot, so all the roots get the same amount of room to grow in. It also looks better on the windowsill. After you added the soil to the sides, you finish up by gently pressing the plant itself. The goal is to get the rim of the inner pot about 1/2 centimeter or 1/5 of an inch above the plant. That way you're able to water without having water all over the place. The next step is to add this stick I mentioned earlier to give the dill additional support. It's quite easy. All you do is place the stick carefully in the soil that you added to the sides. Be careful not to destroy any roots. And then you place the string around the stake and the plant where it gives the best support. After I replanted the plant, I will add water to the container that I'll be using as the outer pot in our pot system. I recommend you add water to the maximum water level mark on the container. So now we carefully place the inner pot inside our container and water it. As we'll loosen the soil the plant came with earlier, the water we add now won't go straight through the pot, but stay in it. Add quite a lot of water the first few days, but don't soak it. The roots won't survive too much water, so try to keep it damp, but not soaked. After a few days, you might notice that the soil on the sides is lower than the middle part where the plant is. That is perfectly normal. All you do is add some more soil to the sides. But remember, for your convenience, try to keep the soil about 1/2 centimeter or 1/5 of an inch below the upper rim of the pot. This is how we replant our store-bought dill to keep it fresh for longer. Dill needs full sunlight for at least 6 to 8 hours each day. So pick a well-sunlit windowsill, place it on, and enjoy! I hope to see you in the next video. Good luck with your indoor herb garden!